Hello Solution Center, and here we are again. This is our part 2 video, and in this video we're going to actually talk about the stories and the changes made to the stories because there are a lot of changes. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to navigate to our project, and once we've navigated to our project, I'm going to go back over to the backlog. I'll go ahead and collapse that panel. So all we're doing is just looking at the backlog now, and we're going to go ahead and create an issue. Um, Now the very first one that we're going to talk about is actually epics. So epics, whether you create it out of the epic tab or whether you create it here, either way it's the same. But epics, since they are very high level stories, they don't require generally as much information as stories, tasks, and bugs. And in fact, they sometimes require different information. So I configured it that way. So working our way down, we've got the project, we've got the issue type, we've got the issue type status. I'm a little on the fence as to whether or not we should keep this or not, but it is interesting. I'd really like to hear your feedback on it. We have the epic name that we need to give it and an epic summary. Those can be the same thing or they can be two different things, totally up to you. Description, no change there. Attachments, that's obviously where you're going to put any designs or any documentation that you have related to the story. And then you've got components, labels, and then due date. So you can see that it's relatively thin as compared to stories and tasks and bugs because epics generally don't require as much information because they are very high level stories. So you can see those changes. Now, for some reason, if you don't think that you're seeing all the fields that you should see, always remember, come up here to hit Configure Fields, click on All, and that will enable all the fields that you do have available for you. So that is the epic. So now I'm going to jump over to bug because there's some really interesting stuff going on with bug now. Again, if you don't see all the fields, configure, hit all, and that'll will enable all the fields. So project, issue type, no different there. Reporter, assignee, summary, description, attachment, priority, epic link, linked issues, effects version, fixed version, components, labels, due date, no changes there. But then we've got this one that is just a flag that we can use to indicate when we have an impediment. Really neat. I really like it. I hope that you guys like it too. I'm going to show you how that works a little later on. But if you are writing something up and it is an impediment, you can go ahead and you can flag it. You can also flag the impact as well. All right, whether it's extensive, significant, moderate, minor, etc. I really like this. I think that that is really interesting, and I'd really love to know your guys' feedback on it. And then obviously then we have a start date. So that's bug. So now let's look at story. So story has project, issue types, assignee, summary, description, priority, effects, fix, epic link, linked issues, attachments, components, labels, no change there, due date, and then it has the impediment flag. Now I didn't enable the severity. I'm kind of on the fence whether or not we should. I'd really love to hear your feedback on that. If it is something that you guys want, we can enable that. Reporter field and then story points. Now if you notice that the story point field is not required. Previously it was. I decided not to require it anymore, although I do recommend that we do the same thing that we discussed previously, and that is give it a generic value. And giving it a generic value supports some of the reports that I have built for you guys. All right, so that is story. There's also task. Pretty much all of the exact same thing as the story, with one exception, and that is the point field is not there, and that's simply because tasks are generally not pointed items. They're just simply things that you need to do. So those are some of the changes that I have made to the issue types. Again, if you aren't seeing all the fields, especially the first time you open up this window, you may have to hit configure fields and then just hit all, and then it will display all the fields that you have available to you. But for now, I want to show you some of the other things that we did, and that is I'm going to create us a couple of stories. I'm just going to do the bare minimum here to show you guys what I did. We're all good. That's all we need is the summary, and I'm actually going to go ahead and hit create another, and we'll call this one test 1. And we're going to do one more. Test 2. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the box and hit create. And there's the 3 stories that we created. So what I want you to notice that when we just click on the story, and we see the information, it says open right here. All right, that's always going to be the first step in our status. When we move it onto the active board, that's when we go from open to ready. But one of the interesting things is that when we take it from the backlog and we move it into the first status represented on our active board, it actually changes from open to ready automatically. And you can see there it shows up on our board. And remember the epics that I said that you can color. Well, you can select a different color if you want to. Well, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm going to drag this story over into the epic. There it is. There's the indicator for that epic. It's blue. That's the color that we selected. We're going to go ahead and select another color. We're going to take this orange, and you can see that it changed it to orange. So you can pick whatever color you want. That was one of the feedback pieces that I got. Okay, so one of the other things that we did was we enabled subtasks. Subtasks are a child of our child stories that their parent is either a story or a task. Okay, so I'm going to click on this one right here, and over in this bar on this button right here it says create a subtask. So we're going to go ahead and hit create a subtask. That's going to open up this little window. All we have to do is just give it a title. Really simple. Go ahead and hit create. It'll open up another one if we want to. Create. It'll open up another one, but if we don't want it, all we have to do is hit cancel. Okay, so now we've got these 2 subtasks, but notice that they're not showing up. All right, because they're still in an open state. So if we go look at the open board, they're not reflected on the board because, again, they're still in an open state, and for it to get onto our active board, it needs to be in a ready state. Oops. So these are the 2 subtasks that are associated with this. We just simply need to change the status of the story to ready, and we're going to do that for both of them. They're now ready, and now we can drag them up into our active board. Whoops, come on. There we go. And if you notice now, they are now a part of our active board. And if you can see right here how the subtasks are smaller than the parent, that's how visually it reflects the parent-child relationship. So I'm going to go back to the backlog. We're going to use this one right here. I'm going to create a couple of subtasks for it again. Let's call that just test 2. Call this one test 3. Names really don't matter. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and cancel that. All right, we can go ahead and click. So I've got my 2 stories. So remember, when I drag it up to the active board, the parent will automatically change from open to ready. And there it is. But we do have to indicate that the children are also ready as well for them to move up to our active board. And once they're ready, now they can go up onto our active board. And there they are. So moving stories across the board is also, there's some also interesting things going on here, but I want to talk about that in the next video. So for that, that's how we create subtasks. That's how we get the subtasks onto our active board. In the next video, we're actually going to talk about how we move those stories across our board. All right, thanks. See you in the next video.